As I said, this is the beginning of a workshop in which we try to investigate the position of crafts in society. We do that by studying the relations between crafts, technology, the arts, and science. With questions, for example, what is the relation between craft and technology? Can craft be innovated? Another question is, what is the role of skill and what is the role of knowledge in craft? How are those skills and knowledges taught? How are they learned? And can we learn from how in music a guru teaches her student the skills, the knowledge that goes with the radams and the compositions and the improvisations? What is the form of teaching and learning? What kind of institutionalizations and positions have the arts in society? Can we learn from that for the crafts? But equally important, de-skilling processes that happen in this society. Wages are too low, young boys and girls leave the villages, leave the crafts. Does that mean that skills disappear from society? What are the consequences for society? Does that mean less dignity, less aesthetics, less democracy? Am I just a romantic? And is it great that my 2.5-year-old grandson already can swipe my iPhone and open it? I must work very hard to teach him a little bit of skill, I'm afraid, in this society. Can we think of alternative schemes in which crafts may help to counter the big global threats of unsustainability and offer us a way to build more sustainable futures for all our societies, not only the Indian? In a kind of a pre-program to the workshop, we started yesterday in the already mentioned Crafts Education and Research Center with a workshop on natural dyes. Today we visited Kanchipuram, both silk weaving practitioners, but also the temple. And tonight there is an open, and I'm extremely happy to see so many participants, not narrowly from the workshop, a more open kicking off of the workshop in 2 parts. The first part will be a panel discussion with these 4 distinguished activists, scholars. I will introduce them each one by one when we get there. And the second part of the evening is a combination of a lecture by Professor Nardanar Rao and then a dance performance by students, specially made and prepared for tonight. So that is the broader framing of tonight. I would now like to start introducing the first speaker, which is Professor Francesca Bray. She is the second from left for you. Francesca is the current president of SHOT, the Society for the History of Technology. She is a historian and an anthropologist of technology and science. She is a specialist, a world-recognized specialist, particularly on agricultural technology and medicine in China, Imperial China, and more contemporaneous societies. Her research covers a broad range of topics, from the Green Revolution in Malaysia, to medicine in China, to the day-to-day use of refrigerators in California. She is very much focused on issues of gender and technology throughout these various research themes. And currently, Francesca Bray is Professor of Social Anthropology at the University of Edinburgh. Francesca, please.
Well, thank you, Wiebe. Thank you, Gita. Thank you, CERC Kalakshetra. And thank you particularly to Annapurna and Wiebe as organizers of this workshop for inviting me here. I'm really honored to be in this center and very excited to be at the workshop, which is called Exploring Craft and Innovation. I'm particularly delighted as this current president of SHOT because SHOT co-sponsored this workshop, and we're hoping it will launch some new directions within our society. The workshop itself has already produced some feedback for SHOT in the form of a roundtable and a series of panels that were put up on our website as an open call for our next conference in Singapore, and I'm told that there were very many very exciting propositions and that it was very difficult to winnow out the best from them. One of the reasons I think that this is particularly exciting for me and my other SHOT colleagues, many of whom I'm afraid are still stuck in the bus, is because the history of technology has often been criticized as being the history of white engineers, white male engineers, written by white male engineers for white male engineers. And it's certainly changed radically in the past few years. Feminist historians have brought in gender analysis. We obviously have class analysis. We have the analysis of socio-technical systems. We are becoming increasingly open beyond the framework of modern Western societies which are built on engineering and therefore attribute a particular kind of magic and power to engineering, to think more widely. And one of the reasons we're very interested in comparisons, whether it be comparisons between history and the present, or comparisons between India and China and the United States, for instance, is that they really bring out for us the context in which certain kinds of skill, craft, technology, for me, I wouldn't separate them. I think every technology corresponds to craft skills, and every craft has technological efficacy. But in any case, that's a historical perspective and an anthropological perspective, which is mine and not shared by everybody. But the point about the comparisons is that it really highlights what's specific, so that you get beyond generalities and very general concepts of craft, very general concepts of the field in which craft is appropriate, where it operates, what is produced by crafts, who craftsmen should be, what their status and rewards in society should be. The comparison, I think, historical and geographical and between different kinds of craft or craft-like activity, really strengthens both the study of crafts and the arguments that can be made for building a sustainable craft system. And for us historians of technology, I have a selfish interest here, it really illuminates for us so many of the things which we have bundled together and just called, say, engineering. And it shows us very much more how engineers are people with particular skills, or how electrification requires touch and sensory perceptions as well as just a drawing board and a blueprint. So one of the hopes that I have in being here is that this workshop and our visit to Chennai of myself and many SHOT colleagues will help build some bridges for the future and bring some people from these Chennai circles and from Indian craft circles into the orbit of SHOT to contribute to what we do. Maybe to learn from some of the things we do, but also, most importantly, from my perspective, to contribute to what we do. And I would just say we have a learned review called Technology and Culture, but we have a lovely website now called Technology Stories. And I was thinking that something out of this workshop would go very nicely on our Technology Stories website, which is trying to take things which are of broad relevance and interest, and that are technical, in order to explain to the public why looking at things as a technology, as a skill, as a craft is helpful to understanding them. So we have a meeting coming up, our first ever Asia meeting in Singapore this June, and we're hoping that it will bring a very much more diverse audience or participation than we usually have in SHOT, because the people coming from China have their own links. They're very much interested in design, in archaeology, in metallurgical science. These are interests which are not perhaps typical of American or European historians of science or historians of technology or technology people, who would perhaps be more interested in the links with environmentalism. Then there would be an overlap with sustainability, I think. The more we move towards places like India, where perhaps people take pollution and environmental sustainability a little bit more seriously than they do still in the climate change denying United States and Britain. So I'm hoping that Singapore will bring new kinds of people to our SHOT circle, including practitioners, including activists, including artists. And it would be wonderful if some of you would take the opportunity to come, and if you don't come to Singapore, just to take an interest in us, to remember that we're here and that we would love to hear from you, because I think it would be a huge contribution and enrichment to our society to have more contacts to people who are thinking about these very necessary, very future-oriented issues like craft and sustainable craft industries. But I think it would also be useful for you to have some input from historians, so that you are even more keenly aware of the context and the uniqueness of the situations which you are addressing. Thank you.